Before the story begins, if you're enjoying these HFY-style epics and want more ruthless alien encounters, apex predators, and humanity standing tall against the impossible, make sure to like the video, drop your theories in the comments, and subscribe so you never miss the next chapter. Now let's dive in. The first drone died with a soft chime, barely noticeable beneath the canopy winds. Commander Jace Rylan noticed anyway. He paused mid-step, glancing at the blinking red icon on his wrist display as the dense jungle of Zereth 9 seemed to lean closer, listening. He didn't curse. He didn't frown. He simply breathed out, controlled as always, and said, "That's the fourth one this hour." Behind him, Specialist Kale Draven muttered something extremely unmilitary under his breath. He slapped the side of his scanner pack as if the problem could be solved through violence. "Fourth one? No, try 13th since landing. You know how hard it is to build something that shouldn't be possible to steal." Jace pressed forward, brushing aside a thick vine that pulsed faintly with bioluminescent streaks. The flora alone would have made Zereth 9 worth a dozen expeditions. But they weren't here for the jungle. They were here for the ghost inside it. Or rather, the predator that had erased 43 drones across 5 alien expeditions, and now theirs. Kale followed close, his boots squishing through vibrant moss that cushioned every step. He carried more tech than gear. Drone remotes, signal amplifiers, a quantum pulse relay half the size of his torso. He didn't look like a soldier because he wasn't one. He was the best drone engineer the Terran Recon Corps had, which meant he was also the best hope they had of tracking whatever kept snatching his creations like curious children plucking fireflies from the air. "I've seen the data," Kale mumbled, still tapping frantically at the screen. "These drones didn't crash. They didn't fry. They didn't even lose power. Something just took them. Gently. Like it reached out of thin air and said, 'Thanks, I'll keep this.'" Jace scanned the jungle. Maybe it did. Kale opened his mouth, closed it, then sighed. He hated when Jace said things like that, calm, simple, slightly ominous. They walked deeper into the emerald haze. Every plant glowed faintly, as if the jungle had its own heartbeat. Birds, if they were birds, warbled from the shadows. Somewhere nearby, water flowed softly. And beneath all of it, a rhythm too slow to be wind, too steady to be coincidence, pulsed through the earth. Kale felt it in his boots first. "That is not tectonic." "No," Jace said quietly. "It's moving." The vibration passed, leaving Kale's nerves buzzing. He swallowed. "So, the apex predator. You think it's close?" Jace didn't answer immediately. He raised his rifle, activating a silent thermal sweep. Nothing. Just endless jungle heat and the scatter of their own body warmth. Which only confirmed the rumor, whatever hunted this place could hide from sensors designed to catch starship signatures through nebula storms. "We're in its territory now," Jace finally said. "Stay alert." Kale laughed once, short and humorless. "I've been alert since Drone 3 vanished. At this point I'm going to develop a permanent twitch." They continued until the underbrush opened into a small clearing. Fallen leaves formed a soft carpet across the ground. The air felt heavier here, as if the atmosphere recognized intruders. Kale scanned the area and felt his pulse spike. Wait, Jace. Look." One of his drones sat in the center of the clearing. Not damaged. Not broken. Not crushed or stripped for parts. Sitting. Upright. Perfectly placed. Like someone had set it down gently. Jace approached slowly, every muscle coiled. The drone was untouched. No scratches, no dented frame, not even a single leaf stuck in its rotors. Kale crouched beside it, his hands trembling slightly as he ran a diagnostic command. The drone booted instantly. Instantly. This doesn't happen," Kale whispered. "It's been offline for an hour. It should have taken at least 30 seconds to reboot. Someone bypassed the normal sequence. Someone who understands our technology better than we do." Jace didn't reply. He was scanning the treeline. Because the jungle was silent now. Too silent. Kale's fingers stiffened around the drone. "Jace, do you feel like we're being watched?" "We are," Jace said. He didn't bother lowering his voice. Whoever, or whatever, was out there already knew. Something shifted high in the canopy. Oh wait. A presence. The hairs on Kale's arms rose as the leaves rustled far above their heads. Not wind. Movement. Deliberate. Observing. Jace's grip tightened on his weapon. "Don't run." "I wasn't going to run," Kale whispered, then added, I was thinking about it, but that's not the same thing." Another rustle. Closer. The feeling of being studied intensified. Not hunted. Not yet. More like, inspected. Then, as abruptly as it had come, the presence receded. The jungle breathed again. The birds resumed their strange melodies. The heavy air lifted. Kale exhaled shakily. It left. No, Jace said, eyes still searching the shadows. It's letting us leave. They backed out of the clearing slowly, drone in hand. Kale kept glancing over his shoulder. Jace kept his senses sharpened. When they reached the denser brush again, the sense of observation faded completely. Only then did Kale speak. It returned my drone. I don't even know what that is. That's curiosity. That's intelligence. Jace nodded once. It's testing us. For what? Jace looked down at the pristine drone cradled in Kale's hands and answered with calm certainty. For whatever comes next. And somewhere deep in the jungle, something enormous shifted again, watching, waiting, deciding. The section ends here in controlled tension, but the story has only begun. The returned drone lay between them on the metal table, its sleek frame reflecting the pale glow of the camp lights. Kale had been staring at it for the last 10 minutes without blinking, as if it might suddenly reveal its secrets through sheer intimidation. Jace stood beside him, arms crossed, reading every subtle change in Kale's expression with the same careful attention he used on hostile territory. It was clear the drone was no longer just a machine. It was evidence that the unseen creature moving through Zereth 9's wilderness was more than a wild animal. Kale finally broke the silence. Someone opened it. He said it like a confession. Not something. Someone. Panels removed, power cell shifted, wiring optimized. Even the firmware has been rewritten in places. He turned the drone upside down with trembling fingers. Do you understand how ridiculous that is? His hands, claws, mandibles, appendages, whatever, shouldn't be precise enough to do this. This is surgical. Jace studied the modifications. The components weren't just returned intact, they had been improved. Cooling pathways streamlined. Stabilizers refined. Tiny connections reinforced. It was engineering beyond simple tinkering. It was intentional, thoughtful, almost artistic. It wanted us to see this, Jace said. Not just return the drone but demonstrate something. What? That it's smarter than us. Kale rubbed the back of his neck. Because message received. Jace didn't disagree. The creature had revealed its intelligence without revealing itself. That alone made it more dangerous than anything he had ever crossed paths with. A predator that hid perfectly, moved silently, and understood human technology on its first encounter wasn't an animal, it was a strategic mind. Kale ran another scan, and the results flickered across the screen in tight columns. It increased power efficiency. 23%. That shouldn't even be possible without reconfiguring the internal capacitors, which it also did. Which means, it studied the design, Jace finished, and understood it immediately. Kale sank into the nearest chair. I'm actually terrified. The camp shuddered as a gust of warm air passed over the perimeter force field. Zereth 9's night cycle had settled in, turning the world beyond their dome into a swirl of shimmering shadows and phosphorescent vines. The jungle glowed like a living nebula. But the real danger wasn't in the lights. It was in the silence between them. Jace walked to the nearest window, scanning the darkness. Somewhere out there, the creature moved with deliberate intent. He could feel it, not instinct, not superstition, but the steady awareness of a trained soldier who'd survived too many encounters by trusting what others dismissed. It's observing us, he said. Learning. Kale nodded, though his eyes stayed on the drone. It's already learned too much. A soft beeping interrupted their thoughts. Another drone signal blinked on the monitor, one of the units they had sent deeper into the jungle before sunset. Its live feed flickered back online for only a moment, as if someone had tapped the activation switch experimentally. The video showed nothing but leaves pressed close to the lens. Then the image spun as the drone was lifted, carried, and set down gently somewhere unknown. The signal went dark again. Kale stared. It's picking them up. One by one. Jace stepped closer to the screen. The feed, short as it was, told him something new. The creature wasn't destroying the drones. It wasn't even afraid of them. It interacted with them like objects of interest. Curiosities. Toys. We need to stop deploying drones blindly, Jace said. We're feeding it information. Are we though? Kale asked. Or is it feeding us? Before Jace could answer, the long-range sensors triggered a perimeter alert. Kale flinched and spun around, scrambling toward the console. Movement detected east sector. Multiple signatures. Not the predator. Jace's tone hardened instantly. Show me. Kale pulled up the holographic overlay. A cluster of bright red readings pulsed along the far ridge. They moved in rigid formations, not natural, not subtle. A military signature broadcast without shame or caution. Jace recognized it immediately. Thrax Dominion. Kale's eyes widened. They followed us? They followed the rumors, Jace corrected. Every faction within 5 systems has heard about the apex predator no expedition can capture. They want it as badly as we do. Kale swallowed. But we're not trying to capture it. They don't know that, Jace said. And even if they did, they wouldn't care. As the Thrax signals grew nearer, the air tightened with the anticipation of conflict. Jace adjusted the rifle slung across his back. He had expected danger from the jungle, not from competing expedition teams, but that was the universe. When a rare discovery appeared, the first threat was always sentient. Kale shut down the drone feed and secured the modified unit. What do we do? Warn them? Tell them not to antagonize the giant invisible death creature? They won't listen, Jace replied. Thrax soldiers think diplomacy is weakness. They'll try to corner it, trap it, force it into open terrain. Kale stared out into the pulsing lights of the jungle as if expecting the creature to appear right then. And it's smart enough to know the difference between us and them. He didn't phrase it as a question, but Jace answered anyway. Yes, it is. A faint rumble passed through the ground, so slight Kale barely registered it. But Jace did. He felt the tremor the same way he felt the jungle watching him earlier. Kale slowly raised his gaze. That wasn't the Thrax. No, Jace said softly. That was something much bigger. Silence lingered between them, heavy but alive with possibility. The Thrax were coming, armed and arrogant. The Predator was also coming, curious and calculating. And between the two forces stood Jace and Kale, the only ones who understood the fragile balance forming on Zereth 9. Kale exhaled. So the next move isn't ours. Not yet, Jace said. But it will be soon. Outside the dome, the jungle glowed brighter, as if stirred awake by the approaching confrontation. A shadow shifted in the trees, large, slow, deliberate. Jace's final thought before the section ends was simple and absolute. The creature wasn't just watching anymore. It was choosing a side. The forest swallowed sound as Jace tracked the Thrax patrol's trail through the undergrowth. Heavy footprints, snapped branches, and deep grooves in the moss told him they had moved with their usual lack of subtlety. Kale followed close behind, clutching a portable sensor array and glancing nervously into the shadows. Every few steps, he checked the drone perched on his shoulder like a mechanical parrot, its rotors twitching in silent agitation. The jungle felt awake in a way that made his skin crawl. They're close, Kale whispered, scanning the faint energy residue ahead. But their comms went dead 15 minutes ago. No distress signals. No drops in vitals. Just silence. Jace didn't slow his pace. The Thrax weren't subtle, but they weren't sloppy enough to vanish without reason. And the creature they'd come to hunt was capable of more than simple evasion. Whatever had happened here was deliberate. A metallic tang drifted through the air, sharp and foreign against the natural humidity of Zereth 9. Kale wrinkled his nose. Is that blood? No, Jace replied. Thrax weapons lubricant. Someone disarmed them. The trail ended at a clearing ringed by towering roots that formed a natural arena. Sunlight filtered through the canopy in uneven beams, illuminating a scene that made Kale's breath hitch. Thrax soldiers lay on the ground in 2 perfect rows. Unconscious. Uninjured. Their weapons piled neatly in the center like confiscated toys. Several helmets had been placed upright beside their owners, as if arranged with ceremonial care. Kale blinked. It lined them up? Jace knelt beside one of the soldiers and checked his pulse. Steady. Stronger than he expected. They're alive. No fractures. No marks. Whatever took them down did it without harming them. That isn't restraint, Kale murmured. That's precision. The trees rustled behind them. Not the soft sway of wind but the deliberate brush of something large shifting its weight. Jace rose slowly. The drone on Kale's shoulder stiffened, lights flickering. Don't move, Jace said quietly. A pair of luminous eyes appeared between the staggered leaves, glacial blue, impossibly focused. The creature's silhouette emerged, broad and powerful, its bioluminescent stripes dimmed to a low pulse. It stood on 4 limbs, each ending in claws sharp enough to cut alloy, yet it made no sound as it advanced. Muscles flowed under its obsidian hide with a predatory grace that bordered on artistic. Kale froze. Oh, okay, that's a lot bigger than I thought. Jace held his ground. Running now would be suicide. Instead, he met the creature's gaze. Not with aggression but acknowledgement. Respect. The predator stepped fully into the clearing, towering over them. Its presence radiated an intelligence that sent goosebumps rippling across Kale's arms. It had placed the soldiers in rows. It had returned Kale's drone. It had been watching them long before they realized. The creature lowered its head, nostrils flaring as it studied Jace. Then, with measured deliberation, it nudged something forward with one enormous paw. A Thrax rifle, unpowered, deconstructed into harmless components. Kale whispered, "It's showing us what it did." "It's communicating," Jace murmured. The creature's gaze shifted to Kale, and the drone on his shoulder responded with a soft chime. Kale's display lit up with a burst of data, readings and diagnostics that hadn't come from his equipment. The creature had transmitted something. A mimicry of the drone's identification tag, but shifted, distorted, almost playful. Kale stared wide-eyed. "It imitated my drone's signal. That's how it redirected the Thrax. It tricked them." Jace nodded. "It protected us." A low rumble vibrated through the ground. The creature's head snapped toward the distant ridge, ears flattening. Jace recognized the sound instantly, a Thrax armored crawler, engines whining as it forced its way through the jungle. Reinforcements were coming, and they were not likely to be taken down harmlessly. Kale swallowed. "They're not going to stop. Not after losing a patrol." The creature turned back to them, its expression unreadable but strikingly aware. It stepped closer, slow and cautious. Jace remained motionless as the predator lowered its enormous head until its eyes were level with his. There was no aggression. Only a profound question. Jace spoke softly. "We're not your enemy." The creature blinked once, a long and thoughtful motion. Then it rose, towering again, and circled them with a protective gait, positioning itself between the humans and the direction of the approaching Thrax. Kale watched stunned. "It's choosing us. What? Why help us?" Jace didn't take his eyes off the creature. "Because it's smart enough to know the Thrax won't stop. And it knows we haven't tried to hurt it." The crawler's engine roar grew closer. Heavy mechanical treads crushed vegetation as the machine broke through the treeline in the distance. The creature lowered its stance, muscles coiling with terrifying power. Jace lifted his rifle, not to attack the creature but to cover its flank. "Stay behind me," he told Kale. Kale hesitated. "Jace, we can't fight a crawler. Maybe not alone." The creature let out a low, resonant growl that reverberated through the clearing. It wasn't aimed at them. It was a warning to the Thrax. The crawler lurched into full view, its mounted cannons swiveling toward the clearing as Thrax soldiers disembarked, shouting commands. Their weapons hummed with rising charge. Kale whispered, "This is about to turn into a massacre." Jace felt the tension building like a drawn wire. The predator shifted, ready to strike, but not recklessly. It waited, observing the Thrax movements with keen intelligence. And then, unexpectedly, the Thrax hesitated. They saw the bodies of their unconscious comrades arranged with careful precision. Their weapons disassembled. Their path blocked by a colossal, uninjured predator standing beside two humans who showed no fear. Confusion rippled through them. The creature straightened, no longer coiled for an immediate attack. It wasn't rushing into violence, it was offering a chance. Jace realized it at the same time Kale did. "It's showing them mercy," Kale whispered. Another warning. The Thrax commander barked in uncertain order, wavering between retreat and aggression. Jace took a single step forward. "Back off," he said, voice carrying through the clearing. "If you push this any further, you won't survive the next warning." The standstill stretched painfully long. Then, with a frustrated snarl, the Thrax commander signaled withdrawal. The soldiers retreated into the crawler, which backed away slowly into the dense foliage. Only when the vibrations faded did the predator relax. It turned to Jace and Kale, exhaling a slow, deep breath that stirred the leaves around them. Kale let out a shaky laugh. "We just negotiated with a creature the size of a dropship." Jace met the predator's gaze. Something unspoken passed between them, understanding, respect, and the promise of a fragile alliance. Balance had shifted on Zereth 9. The predator had taken its stand. And now, whether they were ready or not, it expected the humans to take theirs. Jace didn't sleep that night. The glow of the jungle pulsed like a living heartbeat beyond the camp's thin barrier, and every so often he sensed movement, silent, controlled, massive. The predator hadn't vanished into the wilderness this time. It lingered at the edges of their perimeter, watching with patient intent. Even without seeing it, Jace felt the creature's intelligence pressing against the darkness like a presence with its own gravity. Kale sat hunched over the workbench, surrounded by drones in various states of disassembly. His fingers moved quickly but without their usual chaotic flourish. The encounter with the Thrax had shifted something in him. He wasn't just studying the creature now, he was trying to understand it. He looked up as Jace approached. I think it's communicating through its movements. Not full language exactly, but patterns. Deliberate ones. Like it's waiting for us to take the next step. Jace leaned over the scattered tech. Show me. Kale tapped a console, highlighting a series of signal bursts captured when the creature had transmitted through the drone earlier. These pings aren't random. They're rhythmic. Structured. When it mimicked the drone ID, it wasn't copying, it was answering. Like responding to a call-and-response code. What is it saying? Jace asked. I don't know, Kale admitted, but it's repeating the same sequence now. It's outside our shield repeating it every few minutes. I think it wants us to come out. Jace's jaw tightened. If the creature wanted violence, it had infinite opportunities. It had chosen restraint. He stepped toward the barrier, motioning for Kale to follow. Outside, the jungle shimmered with faint green luminescence, vines cascading like glowing ribbons. The creature waited in the clearing, massive silhouette outlined in shifting light. Its presence alone bent the night around it, yet it made no move when the humans approached. Instead, it lowered its head and tapped its claws 3 times against the earth, precisely matching the first pulse in Kale's recorded sequence. Kale's voice shook. It wants us to respond. Jace nodded slightly, then tapped the butt of his rifle gently against the ground 3 times. The creature's eyes brightened, bioluminescent lines rippling down its body in subtle waves. It repeated a second pattern, 3 taps, pause, 1 long scrape through the soil. That's a syntax shift, Kale whispered. It's changing the structure to see if we can follow. So Jace followed. He mirrored the pattern as best he could, hoping the simplicity masked his ignorance. For a moment nothing happened. Then the creature stepped forward, close enough that Jace felt the heat radiating from its enormous frame. It lifted one massive forelimb and pressed its palm to the ground, extending its claws in a slow, deliberate gesture. Kale gasped. It's drawing. The creature carved a symbol into the earth, an elegant spiral intersected by a vertical line. Then it tapped its chest with one claw. A name. An identity. Kale whispered, reverent, it's telling us what it's called. Jace repeated the gesture, placing his hand on his own chest. Jace. He motioned toward Kale. Kale. The predator blinked slowly, absorbing the information, then tapped the symbol it had drawn. A guttural sound emerged, soft yet resonant, Ravik. Kale's breath caught. It trusts us enough to share its name. Before Jace could respond, an explosive crack thundered through the trees. A shockwave rippled across the ground. Ravik tensed instantly, muscles tightening like coiled armor. Jace pulled Kale behind him as a fiery plume rose in the distance. That wasn't natural, Kale said, voice trembling. That was a Thrax pulse mortar. 3 more detonations followed, closer each time, lighting up the treetops in bursts of orange flame. The jungle's glow dimmed under the smoke and Ravik let out a low roar, anger, not fear. It moved toward the blast with lethal intention, but Jace blocked its path. Wait, he said firmly. They're not here for you this time. They're coming for us. You protected us once. Let us return the favor. Ravik tilted its massive head, studying Jace. The air vibrated with the tension between them. The predator was powerful enough to ignore him, yet it didn't. Slowly, Ravik stepped back, giving them space, acknowledging Jace's stance. Kale swallowed hard. So what's the plan? Jace looked toward the burning ridge. We intercept the Thrax before they reach camp. They think we're trying to claim the creature. They'll wipe us out to get to it. A soft rumble came from Ravik, a sound layered with understanding. The creature lowered itself so its chest almost brushed the ground. A gesture of readiness. Partnership. Kale stared. Is it offering to go with us? Jace nodded. It knows the fight is coming. The next explosion tore through the forest, forcing them into motion. Jace ran beside Ravik, Kale behind them with drones hovering in a tight defensive orbit. Trees blurred past, fire crackling in the distance. The jungle shook with each blast. Finally they reached the ridge. Thrax soldiers were setting up heavy artillery, their commander shouting orders. They hadn't seen Jace or the creature yet. Jace steadied his breath. We disable their weapons. Fast. Before they realize Ravik's here. Kale launched 2 drones forward, their engines whisper quiet as they dove toward the Thrax equipment. Ravik watched their trajectory, then mimicked their path, silent, efficient, and terrifyingly fast. The first Thrax soldier noticed movement too late. Ravik swept past him with blinding speed, knocking him unconscious with a precise blow. Jace slipped through the confusion, dismantling weapon locks and yanking power cells from active rifles. Kale's drones overloaded a mortar's guidance system, sending a bright cascade of sparks across the ridge. Within seconds, the Thrax firing line collapsed into chaos. Jace raised a hand. Ravik, stop. The creature froze mid-strike, turning its fearsome gaze toward him. Jace shook his head subtly. No killing. Show them what restraint looks like. Ravik hesitated. Then it withdrew, stepping back with controlled poise. The Thrax soldiers scrambled away in terror, retreating into the darkness. Kale exhaled in shock. It listened. It actually listened to you. Ravik lowered its head, meeting Jace's eyes with a look that felt unervingly human, trust tempered by expectation. A bond had formed, and it would shape the conflict still gathering on Zereth 9's horizon. The night settled around them, charged with victory but humming with the promise of a far more dangerous dawn. The ground shook before the first warning shot even cracked the air. Jace ducked instinctively, dragging Kale behind a fallen root that had twisted into a natural barricade. The sky above Zereth 9 lit with streaks of molten energy as the Thrax deployed a Titan-class war mech, its armored frame dwarfing the jungle canopy. Even from a distance, the threat radiated lethal precision. Jace's stomach tightened. This wasn't a patrol. This was a siege. Kale's drones whirred anxiously, forming a defensive halo around him. That thing, it's built to kill anything bigger than a sapling, he muttered. His fingers danced over the control console, toggling shields and deploying pulse interference. We can't take it head-on. Jace nodded, his jaw set. We don't have to. Ravik will hold the line. We just need to survive long enough to exploit its blind spots. He glanced toward the shadows where the predator crouched, coiled like a living storm. Its stripes pulsed faintly in response to the mech's movements, a warning and a question at once. Ravik charged first, a tidal wave of muscle and sinew. The mech's sensors registered him a fraction too late, and its first sweep of weaponry barely grazed the creature's flank. Jace could see the precision in Ravik's movements, the way it anticipated recoil, the way each leap and swipe conserved energy and focused force. The predator was a master of engagement, a living embodiment of strategy and raw power intertwined. Kale's voice crackled over comms. I can't believe this is working. Drones swooped around the mech's legs, disorienting the targeting systems, triggering false heat signatures. Explosions of EMP arcs danced along the metal chassis, but the mech was resilient. Every pulse drew sparks and smoke, yet it adapted, recalibrating faster than Kale could react. Jace moved closer, rifle in hand, using the chaos to approach the mech's weaker lateral sensors. He ducked under a swinging arm, felt the wind from the impact and kicked a panel loose, disabling a portion of the energy conduit. Sparks flared across the jungle floor. He looked up at Ravik, who had pinned two Thrax soldiers against the tree line without breaking a single bone. The predator's restraint was staggering. Every motion was precise, every strike controlled. Kale's drones zipped toward the mech's core systems. I've got the EMP lined up. Timing, now. The pulses surged in synchronized rhythm, short-circuiting auxiliary circuits. The mech shuddered violently, faltering. Ravik roared, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself, and lunged for the mech's joints. With a calculated swipe, it ripped open an armored limb, rendering one weapon system useless. The Thrax commander bellowed orders, but panic had already set in among the soldiers. Jace could see it in their frantic movements, the way they hesitated under pressure. He raised his voice, commanding attention. You'll live if you retreat now. Push any further and you'll regret it. Ravik's gaze flicked to him, meeting his eyes with something almost human, a recognition of leadership, a question of moral judgment. Jace felt the weight of it. Here was a creature more powerful than any army unit, yet waiting for his cue to deliver lethal force. His voice was steady, but inside, adrenaline coiled like a storm. Stop, he said. Show them mercy. The mech groaned as systems overloaded, and the Thrax soldiers began a disorganized withdrawal. Ravik stood over the disabled machine, chest heaving, claws scarred and smoldering from the metallic impact. Its body radiated tension and raw energy, yet it obeyed Jace's command. The predator had been a weapon in their hands, but it had also been a judge, and it had chosen justice over vengeance. Kale exhaled, leaning heavily on a fallen tree. I can't believe we survived that. His voice was awe-laden, tinged with disbelief. Ravik, he's not just helping us. He's human in ways we didn't anticipate. Jace walked beside the massive predator, feeling the heat radiating from its body. He's more than human, Kale. He's beyond human. And he trusts us. The realization settled in, heavy and exhilarating. They had not only survived but gained an ally capable of redefining the balance of power across the system. The Thrax commander, battered and humiliated, retreated with the remainder of his forces, leaving behind broken machines and scorched earth. Jace and Kale watched in tense silence, understanding that the victory was not just tactical, it was symbolic. Humanity had stood beside the apex predator and survived, not through domination but through alliance. Kale crouched beside one of his drones, which had been lifted and tossed by Ravik during the fight. The tiny machine now bore marks of soot and claw, yet it remained operational. He treats these like toys, Kale said, a mix of humor and awe in his voice. This is insane. Ravik nudged the drone gently, picking it up with care that contradicted every instinct the humans associated with a creature of his size and power. The predator's luminescent stripes glimmered softly as it carried the drone back toward the humans, as if presenting a gift, a symbol of trust. Jace knelt and placed a hand on Ravik's shoulder. The massive creature lowered its head in acknowledgement, eyes reflecting intelligence, loyalty, and a primal sense of honor. "You've done well," Jace murmured. "The universe isn't ready for you, but we are ready to stand with you." Kale, finally finding his voice, laughed shakily. "So, we just adopt the deadliest predator in the galaxy as our bodyguard? Seriously?" Jace allowed a faint smile. "Not just a bodyguard. He's a guardian. And the next time someone underestimates humanity, they'll remember who stands beside us." Ravik lifted the drone and gently placed it aboard their transport, careful not to damage it. Then he lowered his massive frame onto the forest floor, eyes scanning the horizon for remaining threats. The predator was more than an ally, he was a symbol. He was proof that strength paired with intelligence could be tempered by judgment, and that humans, if courageous and disciplined, could form bonds even with the apex of alien evolution. The jungle around them quieted, the chaos fading into the distant glow of fires and retreating war machines. Jace, Kale, and Ravik stood together, the trio silhouetted against the dawn of Zereth 9. The weight of the victory pressed on them, exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. Jace glanced at Kale. "We survived. We learned. And we didn't just survive. We earned an ally." Kale exhaled, running a hand over his face. "Yeah, and he's terrifying. I've never been so glad to be terrified in my life." Ravik tilted his head, a soft rumble echoing from his chest, almost like a laugh. He turned once more to the horizon, vigilant, aware, and ready. Jace straightened. "The universe sent us a predator to challenge everything we thought we knew. We didn't just survive it, we stood beside it. And that makes all the difference." The dawn broke fully, illuminating the scorched ridge and the jungle beyond. Jace, Kale, and Ravik moved forward together, stepping into an uncertain future, their bond forged in fire, strategy, and respect. The apex predator had chosen them, and in turn they had chosen to rise to the challenge. As they disappeared into the dense foliage, the last light caught Ravik lifting another drone like a toy, carrying it with deliberate gentleness aboard the transport. A predator, a guardian, and two humans, partners against the galaxy. And this was only the beginning.